Hey there again, Board Game Brody here with Let's Table It, where we get games to the table, like Ratzia by 25th Century Games. It's a game originally published in 2004, and it's a raw type field game where you are collecting certain cards and gaining points depending on the combination of the cards that you have. The game has never been published in the US, but 25th Century Games has been working hard to bring us some more titles for us to enjoy here in the US. Anyways, the game comes with a big deck of cards that you will need to shuffle very well each time that you play the game. There are 16 bidding cards, and players will be assigned a different set of cards each time depending on the number of players in the game, and which number of player that you are. There is a chart in the rulebook which will list out which numbers of bidding cards that each player receives. The number 1 card is then placed out near the deck of cards. The game is then set up with a scoreboard to keep track of the score. Now, the game plays over 3 rounds total, and a round ends with either 7 police cards are shown, or if all players use all of their bidding cards. Usually you can expect to get near the end of the deck for the game, but you really just never know where the police cards will come out. This is the cheese grater token, which will signal the player whose turn it is when starting a bid. That player will have the last chance to bid on the cards, so it's a good place to be. Players take turns performing one of 3 actions in a clockwise direction, starting with the player who has the highest bidding card. There is end of round scoring done at the end of each of the 3 rounds, and then there is end of game scoring done as well. Each player will have a reference cards listing how each card is scored and which cards are scored and when. Really, the cards with the root beer icons, I play with my kids, so now they're root beer icons. Those cards are for the end of round scoring, and then they will be discarded. The palm tree icon is for end of game scoring, and you will hold on to those cards till the end of the game. Anyways, on your turn, you will either draw a card from the deck, which you will do the most of all the 3 actions. You can declare an auction from all the cards that have been flipped out, or you can use a thief card if you had previously gained one. When drawing a card, it will either be a police card or any other type of card. If it is not a police card, then it is placed in the leftmost space on the auction row. This row will slowly increase with more and more cards and more stuff. If it's a police card, it's placed on the leftmost space on the top row, which is the police row. A police card immediately triggers an auction of the current laid out cards in the auction row, starting with the player to the left of the player who drew that police card. Similarly, a player can, instead of drawing a card, can choose to trigger the auction, which can be a strategic choice at that time. The player who triggered the auction will take the cheese grater token and place it in front of them to indicate that they will be the last to bid and that they were the player last to take their turn. So the player to their left will decide to bid or pass, and if bidding, you will use one of your cards saying its value for your bid. Each following player will either need to bid higher or pass. And if the auction was triggered by a police card, if all players pass, then the cards in the auction row are all discarded, and then play continues with the next player. If the player declares an auction, then if all other players pass, then that player who chose to trigger the auction, they have to bid using one of their cards. The winner of the auction is the winner who bids the highest, and they get to take all the cards in the auction row. They will place these cards face up in front of them, forming their own supply of cards, and the winner then exchanges their bidding card that they used to win the auction with the current card placed out. With the first auction in the game, this will be the 1 card, but later it will be other numbers that players use when bidding the last auction. The new card gained is placed face down in front of them, and they will be able to use this for the next round. All other players take back their bidding cards that they used and place them back face up to possibly use again in the future. At the end of each auction, play will continue starting with the player to the left of the player who has that cheese grater token. So play will continue until either all players have used all their bidding cards or when 7 police cards have came out in the police row. Now, when the 7th police card comes out, the round ends immediately without triggering an auction, so anticipate trying to use your bidding cards prior to that 7th police card coming out. Players then score for all their root beer cards. First, the trinkets. If you have no trinkets at the end of the round, you gain -5 points. When getting 1 to 2 unique trinkets, then you gain 0 points. But when getting 3 different types of trinkets, there are 5 different types total. But when getting 3 of the 5, you gain 5 points. If you get 4 of the 5, then you gain 10 points. And if you have 1 of each of all the 5 types, then you gain 15 points. Gangsters score different ways. First, the player with the most will gain 5 points. The player with the least will gain -2 points. And then each player that has a pair of different gangster cards, they will score 5 points for each pair. Driver cards score 1 point each. Pretty straightforward. Getaway cars only score if you have a driver. And if you have no driver, all getaway cars are 0 points. But with at least 1 driver, each getaway car is 1 point each. All of these cards are discarded after scoring, and you will move your marker on the score track to keep track of the points that you scored. You will continue the next round by discarding all police cards, and then the player with the highest number bidding card starts the next round. This continues again until all players use all the bidding cards or when 7 more police cards are flipped out. After 3 total rounds, the end of round scoring is triggered and then the end of game scoring is performed. You will gain 1 point for each thief card. These also can be used during the game so that instead of drawing a card or starting an auction, you can instead discard a thief card to steal any card already in the auction row. This could potentially be a difference of 5 points for that 1 card. But again, if not used, they are 1 point each at the end of the game. In addition, I want to mention police station cards. These are cards that come out of the deck, and when you win the auction with one of these, then you will discard it along with any one business card of your choice from your supply. The last cards to score are the businesses, and you will first score points for having unique or different business cards. 1 to 5 different cards will score you 1 to 5 points. 6 different businesses will get you 10 points, and all 7 will get you 15 points. Additionally, each player gains points for having 3 or more identical businesses. 3 of the same scores you 5 points. 4 of the same scores you 10 points, and 15 points for all 5 of the same business cards. Lastly, players will flip over all of their ending auction cards and they will add up the values of each of those cards, and the player with the highest value gains 5 points. The player then with the most points at this point wins the game. And, well, that's Ratzia here. It's a bidding card game with some similarities to Raw, except you're bidding on stolen items that have been stolen the previous night. It has a different theme. Sometimes this is a lot of items, and sometimes this is not so much. Also, there are no catastrophes for this game, so you will continue with what you have, minus, someone coming with a thief card to take one of your trinkets. So you can bank on keeping and having a certain amount of cards without them going missing at any point in the game. The game can be played very quickly, with players continuing to flip over cards over and over again. Experience might cause some more players to trigger auctions prior to the police cards coming out. This can be, strategic way to get other players to use their bidding cards, or it can be because that player wants a certain card and thinks that they might be more likely to get it with less cards being out there. It's an interesting game where 7 police cards ends that round, but depending on how many players are in the game, each player has 4 cards that they can use to bid with. So with 2 players, that's 8 cards, and with 3, that's 12. If players want to use their bidding cards, they actually, need to use them and trigger auctions prior to when those police cards come out. Besides timing when to bid, it comes to knowing what you want or need to get some points. Sometimes if available, 5 trinkets in a round can be huge, but other rounds you might, be stuck with barely getting 1. Then you also compare how many gangster cards that you have versus what other players have, because if you get the most, even if you're just, have 1 more than everyone else, then that's 5 points. And then you're trying to get pairs as well. Drivers and getaway cards, to me, tend to be on the low end of cards, but you need a driver to count points for the getaway cars. Locations at the end of the game can be big as well. You want to spread out so you have one of each, but also you want to have a big stack of the same place as well. Also, some planning can help you snag high card value so you can score 5 more points at the end of the game because of your high bidding cards. So there are a lot of different things to put into thought, but really the game comes down to getting a good amount of matching cards by using your bidding cards the best way that you can and by trying to get your fellow opponents to misbid or use their cards so that you can use yours at a better time. Fast, a solid game, and with a lot of flipping out of cards. Again, this is Brody with Let's Table It, where we get games to the table, like Ratzia by 25th Century Games here. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We are working hard to bring to you videos like this one so you know if these games right here are ones that you want to get to your own table.